Hello. It's just me today to talk about the news, including carbon offsets. But first, there's been reports of a huge increase in malicious advertising on Google in both the ads and in the search results. People downloading popular products like 7-Zip and OBS from Google find that most of the hits on the first page are leading to malicious copies of the software. So this is a periodic problem that keeps coming and going on Google, and apparently now is one of Google's bad times. But there's an article here on The Guardian about carbon offsets, revealing, companies do this. If they do something like fly an airplane, they will then purchase carbon offsets from a company that says they're planting trees in a rainforest somewhere, compensating for the carbon. And now you can advertise that your product is carbon neutral. And this turns out to be complete fraud. The main company doing this, more than 90% of all carbon offsets are worthless. They simply lie. It's fraud. The areas of a jungle where they plant trees are being compared falsely to other areas, and they're counting it wrong, and they're taking areas that are industrialized and planting a few trees there and counting that as a major change. Anyway, so it's just a lie, which is kind of what I think a lot of us suspected. That sounded too bogus to be true. And so, like plastic recycling, it's just a fraud. And I don't know if you probably heard about this. Plastic recycling came from a lawsuit from the plastics industry where they decided that they had the right to print that recycling symbol on the plastic, even though it can't be recycled. And when they see that symbol and you recycle it, it's just thrown in landfill anyway, more than 90% of the time. So you'd be better off to use aluminum or glass if you care about trash. So there's a futurism.com has an article about people forced to go to work in the metaverse. There are people at Meta, of course, who are expected to work in the metaverse, and they say it is horrible. Although, to be fair, this all sounds like the typical growing pains of a new technology. They say you'll put on the thing, the cardboard box on your head, the Oculus, and then it will say you have to log in, and to log in, you have to take it off and look at your cell phone, which is disorienting because you get a sensation of motion sickness to go from the metaverse back to the real world. And then you get in the metaverse and there are more problems that come up where you have to put on updates and keep taking it off and putting it back on. And it's very bad for people that tend to get motion sickness. And, this is something that we discussed before on the podcast. This expecting everybody to go into the metaverse where you completely cover your head with some kind of box and you can't see the real world anymore is, I think, a very harsh user experience and not appropriate for most people. I wouldn't want that at all, but I might want the enhanced reality thing like Google Glass was, where it just adds something to the world. You can still see the world, but something flashes up like your text messages or emails or driving directions, useful information like that. So instead of looking at your phone, it's basically just a heads-up display for the kind of information you might get from your phone. That might be useful. All right, and this article is being presented. It's a Reddit thread, so of course it's an unverified statement, but it seems quite reasonable to me, and this is where I get to be the fascist again. Amazon Smile is a program. I've used it for years. If you type smile.amazon.com, then you shop at Amazon as always, and Amazon donates a small amount to charities, and you can even choose the charities, and I've seen the charities say, we're glad to get it. It's not a lot of money, but it's nice. And now now Amazon is canceling the Smile program. And now someone has posted the origin of the Smile program, which is being treated by most people as disgraceful and horrible, although I don't agree. And what happened is Amazon figured out that if people come from Google and the Google ad leads them to an Amazon product and they buy it, they then have to pay Google for the advertising. And so that's a few pennies on the purchase that they had to pay Google. And they said, if we could get people to just start at Amazon instead and use the Amazon search engine to find their product, we wouldn't have to pay Google. So why don't we introduce this Smile program where we will not have to pay Google, and part of the money that we would have paid Google, we will donate to charity. This seems to me not evil at all. This just seems to me like a win-win. This is smart business. But they're saying this shows that Amazon is rapacious and greedy and evil. I think it just shows their smart business. You don't throw your money away, and you also donate to charity, which was not a necessary thing for them to do. It seems, I guess you could say, people might feel cheated when they thought that Amazon was donating to charity, but in fact, Amazon was just making money off of their program, which also donated to charity. But I don't think there's any legal case there, and I don't really see a moral case. I wasn't under the impression that Amazon was losing money on the Smile program. They never promised to donate so much that they would lose money. They just found money they felt like donating. Anyway, that's going around. And oh, by the way, something I forgot to mention before, the World Economic Forum has announced they're establishing a metaverse to tackle the world's most pressing challenges. So they're already claiming that they can have meetings of experts in the metaverse, even in its current condition. So I think they're too early. This reminds me of Second Life from a decade ago, when a whole bunch of serious schools and companies spent a lot of money developing Second Life presences, thinking they would switch to that. Certainly, remote meetings, like over Zoom and stuff, are taken over, but it's not clear to me that the metaverse version of it is a big deal, like people are trying to make it into. Now, the Register has an article that's very nice about DNS case encoding. And this is, I'm not sure why this is necessary, but when we cover this in DNS security class, Dan Kaminsky found a flaw which in 2008 led to poisoning DNS servers with false information, and you could redirect traffic on the internet. And to fix that, the good solution is DNSSEC, but that's a burdensome upgrade, and it's still not deployed even more than 10 years later. So that would be a really good cryptographic solution to prevent cache poisoning of DNS servers by making sure that only authenticated, authorized servers provide information to be cached on the servers. But in a stopgap measure in the meantime, they switched to source port randomization so that the identifying number to identify the correct server to trust moves from 16 bits up to 32 bits. So there are more possible combinations. But anyway, for some reason, they've decided to add a few more bits of randomness to it. And what you can do is your DNS query, your domain name, can have random uppercase and lowercase letters in it, because a domain name in uppercase letters, like yahoo.com, and a domain name in lowercase letters is treated exactly the same by DNS servers. They don't care about the case. So you can randomize the case, creating more, and then they can make sure that the reply from the authoritative server matches exactly the query which asked for it. And that helps prevent an attacker from being able to guess the response the server is going to send and send a fake response in earlier, which would poison the cache. So anyway, it is something you probably won't notice unless you're running a DNS server, but if it's coming from a Google provider, it will come in with random case in it now. And that is intended to add some more bits of randomness to it and make it more resistant to cache poisoning attacks. And Tesla has added a battery passport. It's a proof of concept now. Now, everyone's talking about a software bill of materials now, where you will know all the libraries coming into your products. You can decide if they come from a country you don't like, or they're untrusted in other ways. And we've known for food products, there's dolphin safe tuna, where you know that this tuna was fished in a manner that doesn't kill as many dolphins. And in the same spirit, electric vehicles have a sort of environmental, socially responsible consideration that the heavy metals in your battery might have come from some really nasty place where terrible things are being done to mine those metals. And so Tesla has made a battery passport, which lists the country of origin and the company of origin of your materials used to make your Tesla battery. It only covers some of the materials now, and it's a prototype, but this would make it possible for people, like an ingredients label on food. It would make it possible for consumers to be aware, if they care, of where their stuff used in their car is coming from. And then they could presumably choose to buy products that suit their moral values better. And the Kia and Hyundai thefts using USB cords, I've heard about this months ago, but I finally found The police are saying it's a big trend. It's rising because of TikTok videos now. And I finally saw a video explaining how it worked. Uh, the most useful one is actually an article from last year on the drive. And I didn't realize it was this simple. I thought it was electrical. It's not electrical at all. All it is on the Kia and the Hyundai, you can just take apart the key part. You have to have one that turns a key to start the car instead of pushing a button. And the actual lock part can be removed. And then you just have a little sticking out square piece there that you have to turn. So you could just grab a pair of pliers to turn it. The only thing the USB cable is being used is the USB cable is a handy thing that snaps over that so you can turn it like a key. So this is why the cops say you can't leave a USB cable in your car if you have a Hyundai or a Kia of this model, or it makes it easier for a thief to break in. Obviously, it's very easy anyway, but it's not even an electrical hack at all. It's just a mechanical handle to grab that little nub to turn it to start the car. So that really is ridiculous. So if you have an older Hyundai or Kia, I think anything before 2022, then you really should add another layer of security. They say you can get a brake pedal lock or a steering wheel lock. I used to have a club that would connect on the steering wheel with a lock, just so somebody can't just walk in and drive it away. Anyway, that's it for this one. And we'll have another one on Tuesday where some of my co-presenters may appear.